Okay, so our topic for today is about learning and development. No? The learning and development strategies and practices uh, are designed to ensure that employees in the organizations acquire and develop the knowledge, skills, and competencies they need to do their jobs or to do their jobs well and advance their careers for their own and the organization's benefits. No? So learning and development has essentially taken the place of human resource development. Or so although the terms are sometimes interchanged, the introduction of the term learning has emphasized the belief that what matters for individual is that they are given the opportunity to learn, open on their own, but with guidance and support rather than simply receiving training from the agency or the organization. So the attention placed on understanding how people learn as well as the notion of organizational learning and the learning organizations has contributed to this shift. Okay, to give us more details about the topic, let us all welcome Sir Michael. Go ahead, Sir Michael.
Thank you, sir. Hello, good morning. I will be tackling about learning and development. Learning and development strategy. A learning and development strategy sets out the workforce capabilities, skills, and competencies the organization needs, and how they can be developed to ensure a sustainable, successful organization. Organizations need to adapt to changing labor markets, are creating learning cultures highlights LD pivotal role in. The report also emphasizes the importance of strategic human resource management, aligning to the overall business strategy. The LND strategy has to reflect the overall business strategy and drive progress directly toward that. It must also align with the broad people strategy and align with other strategies, for example, recruitment. When developing strategy, it's useful to adopt the financial and operational language of business. This helps L&D to be understood widely across the organization. With good financial and operational savvy, L&D professionals can also challenge decisions that risk damaging organizational value and employee engagement. The core of an L&D strategy will be meeting the organization's performance needs through the development of its employees. In practice, it may focus on those identified as high performing or high potential individuals who are critical to long-term success. This can typically include mentoring programs, mentoring programs with senior leaders, in-house development programs, and project-based learning. Some organizations have a broader range of interventions adopting a more inclusive approach to employee development. So the two keywords of this strategy is learning and development. What is learning? Learning is how a person acquires and develops new knowledge, skills, capabilities, behaviors, and attitudes. As explained by Honey Mumford, 1996, happened. Learning happens when people can demonstrate that they know something that they did not know before, and when they can do something they could not do before. Learning is a continuous process that not only enhances existing capabilities but also leads to the development of the skills, knowledge, and attitudes that prepare people for a large or higher level responsibilities in the future. The next word is development. Development is concerned with ensuring that a person's ability and potential are grown and realized through the provision of learning experiences or through self-directed learning. It is an unfolding process that enables people to progress from a present state of understanding and capability to a future state in which higher level skills, knowledge, and competencies are required. Next, the process of learning and development strategy. In in uh, Number one is assess the skills landscape at your company, create a budget, find providers, implement the training programs, measure and review. Under the number one process is assess the skills landscape at your company. To design a learning and development strategy, you'll first need to identify and evaluate the skills and competencies the employees need most. Are there current areas in which employees can perform better? Are there skill gaps between teams or departments? Are there new skills for future roles that the company wants to fill? These are good questions to consider when designing a new learning and development strategy. In addition, think of a few key performance indicators that will help you evaluate different programs. For instance, how well a program aligns with your business goals or how a program affects employee performance. Next is to create a budget. Training programs aren't free, so you'll need to figure out much money your company is willing to set aside for the training and career development process before you start reaching out to providers or designing programs. The next step is to find providers. Once you identify the skills you want to target and set your training budget, it's time to start researching providers who can train your employees in this area. You can look online, talk with coworkers and leadership, and brainstorm programs. As you do this, find different learning methods that are interesting for employees with different learning styles and contribute to the 7-20-10 framework. Consider options like online classes, hands-on training, mentorship programs, certifications, leadership shadowing, or executive coaching. The next process is to implement the training program. Let employees know about the programs you're implementing and hold sign-ups for mentorship programs or leadership shadowing. Schedule any date-based training throughout the year to avoid any major crunch crunch weeks for any team. Drum up employee engagement in the program by sending reminders and checking in. Participate in each training and development program yourself to ensure they're well designed and worthwhile. Next is to measure and review the programs. During or after each program, get employee feedback to see which programs they like the most and what they'd like to see more of in the future. In addition, evaluate each program against your KPIs. You can also brainstorm new strategies from empowering new hires early on. For instance, considering which employee training programs you can implement right into the onboarding process. The role of HR in L&D. At the heart of any L&D initiative is a company's human resource unit. Aside from encouraging the staff to manage their own career growth, HR also makes certain that the company provides employees the opportunities to be more effective in their existing jobs. Moreover, HR must ensure that the various learning and development benefits are clearly communicated to all employees and managers. Studies indicate that employees who actively seek for opportunities to learn and develop are more likely to achieve more. In the real world, however, without a compelling incentive, managers will complain about training costs and waste work time. Furthermore, employees will be less passionate about L&D programs if they never perceive any improvements in their career opportunities and job performance. Therefore, gaining employee support for learning and development is a serious HR issue. In fact, a 2018 Trinity study found that persuading employees to make time for learning is HR's greatest L&D challenge. Moreover, neglecting some of these challenges yes, will make the L&D process inconvenient to the business and could become discouraging to employees. Learning and development programs and events. As you can see on the demonstration on the no, you can see self-directed learning, traditional focus techniques, multifaceted focus strategies, system level strategies, performance and, then performance environment solutions. Under self-directing learning, approaches whereby learning goals and activities are determined by the learner. Most useful when you have several seasoned professionals and experts as well as individuals who have very specific goals. L&D doesn't own self-directed learning, but it's clear that many modern organizations and modern learners count on self-directed learning for ongoing development. If an organization relies on self-directed learning as a core strategy, it may be appropriate for learning professionals to scaffold that to teach metacognitive and self-directed learning skills if needed, and to individually assist learners in planning their long-term development. Next is the traditional focus techniques. These approaches are formally designed and supported as a standalone component, usually with very specific knowledge and skill development goals in mind. This is most useful when you serve people who are quite new to a knowledge base or skill, or when you have specific learning milestones people need to achieve. L&D has a large array of techniques in our solution set, ranging from direct teaching to social support to structured development program. Over time, this array continues to grow. For example, our most recent entries into the pantheon of focus techniques include micro-learning, personalized learning, and virtual reality. Next is the multifaceted strategies. These strategies can apply a variety of techniques to the same goal in a comprehensive fashion, usually aimed at a specific knowledge and skill development. Most useful for complex skills when audience actually has varying needs with regard to a topic or when you want to develop knowledge and skill over time. This array of strategies is what new in LND in the recent past and likely in the near future as well. Blended learning has been in the lexicon since the earliest part of this century, but various senior practitioners have documented specific strategies that take concept to the next level. Each has a slightly different take, but all of these strategies marry a variety of formats in a more comprehensive strategy for supporting learning. Next is system level strategies. A framework for looking at learning and development strategy and support in a comprehensive way across all organizations' learning needs. This is most useful when you have charge of an organization-wide strategy, although, as parenthetically noted, this can often be applied at a project level in the same way as multifaceted focus strategies. These are more these are much like multifaceted strategies but are conceptualized on multiple levels, meant to apply to an overall learning strategy or culture as well as to individual projects for knowledge and skill development. And the last is the performance solution. This is a broad-based framework that look at the entire performance system. This is most useful in defining what interventions are most likely to make a positive impact on performance. Human performance frameworks are bucketed separately because they tend to start with different questions. Certainly, all learning in organizations has ties to performance, and practitioners are wise to look for additional means to support performance that they go beyond knowledge and skill building. That said, there are practitioners in our field whose job scope is more at the global performance and organizational design level. The frameworks in this bucket are more encompassing in scope and often require experts in a variety of disciplines to engage in solutions. In this diagram, it shows the category of what what programs to be used, its characteristics, and the strategies and frameworks to be done. Self-directed learning approaches whereby learning goals and activities are determined by the learner. Its strategies is the personal learning network, learning concierge, or learning coach services. Under focus techniques, the strategies and framework will be training, e-learning, social learning, mentoring, communities of practice, experiential learning, OJT coaching, micro-learning, personalized learning, adaptive learning, knowledge management, and performance support. In the category of multifaceted focus strategies, it is a blended learning, learning environment design, learning campaigns, learning experiences, learning ecosystem approach, and system level strategies is learning and performance ecosystem, continuous learning, 7-20-10, modern workplace learning. Performance focused solutions, the strategies and framework is human performance technology, Ramler-Bratt approach, and performance consulting model. Three types of learning and development strategies. Learning and development strategies usually balance 70% on the job learning, 20% collaboration-based learning, and 10% formal training. This is known as the 7-20-10 guideline. Number one type is the on-the-job training. Most of an employee's learning should come from on-the-job training, in which they learn the necessary skills and tools for team leaders and other employees. Organizations can facilitate this kind of learning by encouraging teams to prioritize instruction while working and having a robust offering of on-demand learning tools to answer employee questions as they arise. Number two type is collaboration-based learning. Collaboration-based learning should account for around 20% of an employee's learning experience and be a mixture of mentoring opportunities, leadership, shadowing, apprentices, and other activities that encourage cross-team and cross-department interaction. The last type is formal training. Formal training should make up around 10% of an employee learning experience. This experience may include real-time online courses, e-learning for classes, especially through a learning management system or LMS, or a learning experience program or LXP, hands-on learning opportunities and certifications. The next is how do people learn? Um, just as disclaimer, no, I will show you a video, but this video is not my own video, and there is no copyright infringement intended. Just to show the I, this video is used as reference for the topic.
Accounts for about 20% of your body's blood, oxygen, and energy usage. The brain houses 100 billion neurons, with each neuron having somewhere between 1,000 and 10,000 synapses, or connections to other neurons. Every thought, every action, and every memory is managed and stored in these neural pathways, a painful one. Unfortunately, the more powerful of the two is pain. A teacher can prepare the most incredibly, and brain has to find a way to reconcile it with prior learning. This process is called cognitive conflict. Teachers often try to shield their students from cognitive conflict because the process can be frustrating. But to truly ensure that the information is mastered, students must be allowed to struggle in pursuit of curiosity in the progression towards mastery. This requires a balance between two variables, challenge and ability. If the challenge is low and ability is high, the brain becomes bored. If a challenge is too high and the ability is too low, the brain becomes stressed. A balance is needed between the two. And when the brain finds a challenge that is perfectly balanced with ability, the result is called flow. And it is the most intense enjoyment of learning that the brain can experience. When the three ingredients of autonomous of cognitive conflict
Katulad po nung under sa yung pinakita po sa video, sabi nga po sa video is every brain is unique. And you can learn in two ways. Either it is a pleasurable learning or a painful learning. In the workplace, HR manager should uh, should be more aware dun sa mga yung strength and weaknesses ng kanyang mga employees. Sabi nga kung if di baling mahirap yung trabaho, basta maayos yung environment, mas magtatagal yung tao dun sa kumpanya kaysa dun sa ah, madali yung trabaho pero pangit yung environment na nararanasan niya dun sa kanyang office. Uh, uh, Learning can affect behavior. The three major types of behavioral excuse me, learning is classical conditioning, operant conditioning, and observational learning. Classical conditioning is a learning process in which an associate is made between a previously neutral stimulus and stimulus that naturally evokes a, a response. For example, the smell of food was naturally occurring stimulus that was paired with the previously neutral ringing of the bell. Once an association had been made between the two, the sound of the bell alone could lead to a response. Operant conditioning. It is a learning process in which the probability of response occurring is increased or decreased due to reinforcement or punishment. First studied by Edward Thorndike and later by B.F. Skinner, the underlying idea behind operant conditioning is that the consequences of our actions shape voluntarily behavior. Skinner described how reinforcement could lead to increase in behaviors where punishment would result in decreases. He also found that the timing of when reinforcement were delivered influenced how quickly a behavior was learned and how strong the response would be. The timing and rate of reinforcement are known as schedules of reinforcement. Observational learning is a process in which learning occurs through observing and imitating others. Suggests that in addition to learning through conditioning, people also learn through observing and imitating the actions of others. A change of behavior happens due to any or both of the following: learning or other causes such as drugs, injury, diseases, and maturation. This is a simple diagram to show how learning affects the behavior of an individual. You can have direct and indirect experience. Under the direct experience, these are the your observations and practices. The indirect experiences will be reading, watching movies, and etc. When you experience anything, then there comes learning. After learning, there will be change in behavior. It can be physical or change in your knowledge. Then katulad po dun sa sinabi ko na sa number 2, the other causes, pwede siyang pumasok dito sa change in behavior. Then dun lalabas ngayon kung anong learning anong behavior uh, yung mapoposes mo, kung ito po ba ay socially appropriated behavior or misconduct. Organizational learning. It is the process of creating, retaining, and transferring knowledge within an organization. An organization improves over time as it gains experience. From this experience, it can create knowledge. This knowledge is broad, covering any topic that would better an organization. Examples may include ways to increase production efficiency or to develop beneficial investor relations. Knowledge is created at four different units. It can be individual, group, organizational, and inter-organizational. The most common way to measure organizational learning is a learning curve. Learning curves are relationship showing how an organization produces more of a product or service. It increases its productivity, efficiency, reliability, and or quality of production with diminishing returns. Learning curves vary due to organizational learning rates. Organizational learning rates are affected by individual proficiency, improvements in an organization's technology, and improvements in the structure, routines, and methods of coordination. Organizational learning happens as a function of experience within an organization and allows the organization to stay competitive in ever-changing environment. Organizational learning is a process improvement that can increase efficiency, accuracy, and profits. A real world example of organizational learning is how a new pizza store will reduce the cost per pizza as the cumulative production of pizza increases. As the staff creates more pizza, they begin to make pizza faster. The staff learns how to work together, and the equipment is placed in the most efficient location, leading to cheaper cost of creation. An example of a more formal way to track and support organizational learning is a learning agenda. Organizational learning is an aspect of organization and a subfield of organizational studies. As an aspect of the organization, organizational learning is the process of creating, retaining, and transferring knowledge. So yung organizational learning po, makaka-help siya sa organization kasi ah, dito mas natututunan ng mga empleyado kung paano mapapabilis yung trabaho nila. Tsaka kung paano sila magkakaroon ng dito nagkakaroon sila ng camaraderie tapos nagja-jive yung kanilang mga goals para maabot po yung expectations ng HR managers and the organization. Ah, ito po yung sinasabi ko kanina na ma-measure yung organizational learning gamit po itong learning curve. Learning curve is a graphical representation of relationship between how proficient someone is at a task and the amount of experience they have. Proficiency measured on the vertical axis usually increases with increased experience. The horizontal axis, that is to say, the more someone performs a task, the better their performance at the task. Itong nasa taas na diagram, this is an example of a subject becoming more proficient at a task as they spend more time doing it. In this example, proficiency increases rapidly at first, but later stages, there are diminishing returns. The number two diagram the, is an example of what the common expression steep learning curve is referring to. The subject spends a great amount of time but does not see an increase in proficiency at first. And the last topic is the management development. Management development is the systematic process of creating effective managers. Managers' critically function is to translate leadership and shareholder objectives or create them on their own when they do not come from above into legal and effective actions to achieve those objectives. In doing so, managers act as facilitators and problem solvers. Managers may receive inspiration and direction from leaders, yet managers are charged with the application of aspirational and strategic principle to the day-to-day process of getting the job done right and done efficiently. Management development is simultaneously rigorous, academic, and practical. An organization's approach to management development should include variety of techniques to constantly build on a manager existing KSAs. Usually, managers can benefit greatly from formal training in one or more of these foundational areas. Often, managers come out of the rank and file, having distinguished themselves in individual contributor role in the organization. Others come into an organization already at a management level, with college degrees in business administration or a management level job with a previous employer. Occasionally, a manager demonstrates more than just managerial competencies and becomes an organizational leader. Management development is concerned with enabling managers from any level to become more effective managers and to advance within organizations. The nature and characteristics of management development. Number one is the behavioral change. The management development process focuses on the change in managers' behavior. This change implies that there will be a change in knowledge and attitude of managers going under development programs. Number two is the educational process. Management development in an educational process rather than training. It focuses on overall personality development. The potential managers required to have knowledge of business environment, management principles and techniques, human relations, specific industry analysis, and so on, which is possible through a continuous development process. Self-development. Managers develop themselves by participating in the management development programs organized by the company through the actual job performance. They can obtain real and authentic job experience, but the manager should be motivated for self-development and learning activity as the company can merely provide such opportunities. It means the real inspiration of self-development should arise from the individual. The last characteristic is the continuous process. It begins by looking after the organization's objectives, moves through the assessment of current management process, and finally completes the evaluation of the change behavior. However, this process goes continuously as a demand for development. Management or executive development is an organized and planned process and program of training and growth by which individual manager or executive as each level of management hierarchy gains and implies knowledge, skills, insights, and attitude to manage workers and work organizations effectively. What is the importance of management development? Although managers can and do develop on their own, the process can be greatly facilitated by the systematically application of tools, methods, and theories under the direction of other managers and HR professionals because organizational leaders must thoroughly understand the organization they lead. It makes good sense for organizations to attempt to grow leaders in their own backyards. Growing leaders from within is an increasingly prevalent staffing alternative. A formalized approach to management development is worth the effort because well-trained managers can play a key role in the organization's success and future development by, for example, allowing them to do the following. Uh, One, to have a major impact on employee performance and morale, to revitalize unmotivated employees and thereby avoid the disruption and cost of firing and rehiring, act as translators between levels and groups of employees and with other organizations. Dito po sa management development, nagtitrain sila ng mga ah, future managers. Sabi nga po dun sa isang seminar na inatenan namin, a good leader is not a leader if they cannot produce new leaders. So hindi lang po dapat ang tinitrain natin, ang dinedevelop natin is yung mga employees, dapat pati yung mga managers para makikita ng mga employees na umaangat sila. Hindi lang sila umaangat, pati yung mga managers nila, umaangat po yung qualifications and then yung skills na pwede nilang matutunan within the organizations and within themselves. So, tapos na po yung ano.
Okay, so thank you very much, sir, for your comprehensive discussions related to your topic. No, again, I'll just want to give an additional inputs regarding the learning and development strategy. No, so learning and development strategy refers to an organization's approach to ensuring that learning and development activities both now and in the future support the attainment of its goals through increasing the skills and capacities of individuals and teams. So it's a term that has been used to define strategic human resource management. Now, the strategic human resource development entails introducing, removing, altering, directing, and guiding procedures so that all individuals and teams have the skills, knowledge, and competencies needed to perform current and future duties for the organization. So in the sense that it is designed to promote the attainment of business or government goals by promoting human capital advantage, a learning and development plan should be business or organizations lead. So it should, however, be people lead, which implies taking into account people's wants and desire to grow and develop. Of course, achieving the second goal is the achievement of the former. So, a philosophy underpins a learning and development strategy, and its goal is to operationalize that philosophy. So, it is primarily concerned with cultivating a learning culture that promotes learning and serves as the foundation for developing and implementing learning activities and programs. So the idea of learning culture is linked to the concept of learning organizations. Now, the process of learning and development. So the goal of process of learning development is to identify and explain the different types of learning and development processes and approaches, such as informal and formal learning. We have e-learning, we have blended learning, we have development and training. Because identifying learning requirements, developing and implementing learning and development programs, and evaluating learning are all ways to put principles into reality. So the process of obtaining and developing knowledge, skills, capabilities, behaviors, and attitudes through learning and development events is known as learning and development. So its goal is to ensure that the organizations or the government agency has the knowledgeable, talented, engaged, and dedicated personnel it requires. Now, learning is the process of acquiring and developing new informations, new skills, abilities, behaviors, and attitude. Because learning has occurred when people can demonstrate that they know something they didn't know before. No? Of course, their insights, realizations, as well as facts. And when they can do something they couldn't accomplish previously. No? So learning is a constant process that not only improves present talents, but also leads to the development of skills, information, and attitude that prepare people, no, for future tasks that are larger or in higher scope. No? Through the provision of learning experiences, or self-directed actually, no, or yung self-managed learning, no, development is concerned with ensuring that a person's skills and potential are, of course, are increased, no, in achieved. It is a process that allows people to go from a current state of understanding and capability to a future state that requires higher level skills, knowledge, and competencies. So the use of formal methods to convey knowledge and assist people in acquiring the skills they need to do their job satisfactorily is referred to as training. So it is important to distinguish between learning and training, because learning is the process by which a person acquire new knowledge, skills, and talents, whereas training is one of the strategies that an organization might use to encourage learning. Now, the process model for learning and encouragement, no, is focused with enabling individuals' learning activities and offering learning resources to them to employ. So providing training, on the other hand, necessitates the use of a content model, which entails, no, determining in advance which knowledge and skills need to be improved through training, planning the program, selecting training methods, and presenting the content in a logical sequence through various forms of instruction. So we could able to distinguish between learning, which is in the realm of an individual, and training, which is in the domain of the agency or organization. Today's strategy is to focus on individual learning and make sure it happens when it's needed, just for you and just in time learning. Now, when it comes to learning and development programs and events, no, so it provides an overview of the planning process for a learning and development program of a learning or event. No, so a learning and development program is a series of collection of training activities that take place over time. No, so a learning event is a specific learning activity, such as course, that is tailored to suit a specific learning requirements. So the construction of an organization case for learning, so the sequence of activities required to organize the program or event, and who is responsible for ensuring that learning occurs. No? So we need to understand the delivery of the learning programs and events, as well as the criteria, no, for determining their effectiveness. No? we need also to dedicate the two key tasks that regulate the planning and implementation of learning programs and events. So defining learning needs and assessing the success of learning activities. No? So the learning and development organization or government agencies cases should show how learning, training, and development programs will help the agency reach its goals. No? If the agency's objective cannot be cited as the basis for designing training and development, then no training and development should be offered. No? A cost-benefit analysis is required, which compares the benefits expressed in quantified terms as far as possible that will result, no, from the learning activity. Because the organization case must persuade management that learning and training program and events will provide an acceptable return on investment. It can tough to come up with accurate estimates, but it is worthwhile, no, to try with the support of a financial experts. No? Now, a while ago, our presenter discussed about on how people learn. If learning is to be effective, it is vital to have a good grasp of how people learn. So the idea of this is to outline the various ways in which people learn in general learning theory. So to define how individuals learn, learning style and learning to learn, and to present the practical implication of these ideas, concepts, and of course the approaches. No? So the process of raising one's capacity to take action has been defined as learning. So it's defined as the process of changing one's behavior through experience, because learning and development were distinguished with learning referring to an increase in information or better level of proficiency in an existing skills. Whereas development refers to a different condition of being or functioning. Again, learning is complicated and diverse, encompassing a wide range of topics such as information, skills, insights, beliefs, values, actually, no, attitude and habits. Because people learn for themselves and from others. They learn in groups and through interaction with their bosses, co-workers, and other from outside the organizations or agency. People learn through both doing and being instructed. Tama naman, di ba? Individual learns in different ways, and the extent to which they learn is primarily determined by how driven or self-motivated they are. Individual can engage in discretionary learning when they actively strive, no, to acquire the knowledge and skills they need to do their jobs effectively. It should be supported, of course, and encouraged. So, the situation in which learning takes place has a significant impact on its effectiveness. This incorporates the agency's values, no, the organization's values. It is actually believed that learning is critical for establishing a high-performance culture and gaining a competitive edge. No? Is this notion backed up by behaviors that promote and facilitate learning? Is the learning and delivery method consistent with the following beliefs? Because it is critical to develop an environment where individuals are encouraged to take chances and experiment, no? Where mistakes are accepted and where those engaged can learn from their experiences in order to successful learning to take place at the individual level. Okay? Another topic that our presenter discusses about the organizational learning. The study of how learning occurs in organization is known as organizational learning theory. So it focuses on collective learning but acknowledges that organizations do not conduct the activities that lead to learning. Rather, individual members of the organizations act in ways that contribute to learning. Though organizations might create conditions that support such learning. So the notion of organizational learning recognizes that the manner in which this occurs is influenced by the organization's context and culture. So the organizational learning discusses the consequences and method of organizational learning, summarizes organizational learning principles, and describe the process of evaluative inquiry as a foundation of organizational learning. So the notions of organizational learning is that, or the notions of the organizational learning and the learning organizations are compared towards the end of the discussion, and there are frequently mixed up actually. So the production of new information or insights that had the potential to impact behavior is the focus of organizational learning, because organizational learning has been defined as the process of coordinated system change with mechanism built in for individuals in groups to access, build and use organizational memory, structure, and culture to develop long-term organizational capacity. So it occurs within the broad institutional context of inter-organizational relationships and refers broadly to an organization's acquisition of understanding, know-how, techniques, and practices of any kind. Because individual and team learning can be turned into an organizational resource in this context. Okay, according to organizational learning theory, which is strongly tied to knowledge management process. It is stressed that organizational learning is not merely the sum of individual and group learning throughout the organizations or an agency, because many studies have demonstrated that without good procedures and system linking individual and organizational learning, one cannot exist without the other. Okay. Another topic that we need to look into is the management development. No, management development aims to improve managers' effectiveness in their current roles while also preparing them to take on more responsibility in the future. So it was described as a learning-based approach to increase managerial effectiveness. Hindi naman pwedeng lagi tinitrain lang natin yung ating empleyado. But even the superiors or the heads must be trained. Talent management is linked to management development efforts because of the rising responsibilities placed on line managers. A systematic approach to management development is required because line managers now require a broader variety of developed abilities than ever before. So, a while ago, our presenter shared, no, some managers requires the following skills. Number one, empowering and developing people. So, comprehending and practicing the process of delivering through others' capabilities. A manager requires to have managing people in performance because managers are under growing pressure to maintain morale while also increasing productivity. To collaborate across borders, no, engage with people, work as a part of team, and think creatively about challenges and solutions. Managers has also need to cultivate customers, no, or clients relationship to a customer-centric mindset by forming partnership with both internal and external customers to strike a balance between technical and generic abilities. So the technical components of management and human connections management. So a management development strategy focuses on the programs that an organization plans to undertake to help managers grow. So even if it is focuses on the development of individual performance and potential, it will be an agency driven or a government driven. No, the agency or the government agency must determine what types of managers it requires to meet its strategic objectives, as well as how to best recruit and develop these individuals. Even if the emphasis is on the self-development, which it should be, no, the agency must nonetheless specify the direction in which self-development should proceed, no, albeit in the widest term possible. So the approach will be based on the study of future managerial needs, which will be carried out through human resource planning and talent management. Again, forecast of the number of the types of managers needed to meet organizations or agencies' needs and ensure engagement or management succession can be made. So we have what we call succession planning. No, it's also important to examine the skills and abilities that immediate heads or supervisors will need to handle future demands and difficulties, such as those posed by competitive pressures, new product market driven, technology, and the introduction of new, the introduction of the new technologies, And this can be accomplished through performance management system that identify development needs and potential and lead to personal development plans being agreed upon. So I think that's it for this topic.